ever looked at your hand? I mean, really, really looked at them. It's really easy to take them for granted, especially since they've been at the ends of your arms for your entire lives. Those fingerprints you see, you were born with them, and they will never change. Everything you touch throughout your entire life will bear your own unique fingerprint. There are 26 bones in a human hand and about 40 muscles and tendons to get them to maneuver. Though this may sound off topic to be in a speech about continuation, it actually assents well if you think of it as a metaphor. Have you really looked at your hands? I mean, really, look at them. Do you remember the feeling you had on the first day of school? The fear of moving on, never wanting to let go of your mother's hand? I bet most of us are feeling an infinitesimal bit like that right now, although we would loathe to admit it. They say our fingerprints cannot be erased from the lives of those we have touched. Even though we won't be back here in the fall, our fingerprints will remain forever. I remember the first time I set foot or a wheel in this school. I had spent the past 7 years of my life at Maple School, shaped and buffered by the kind but firm hands of the teachers in the autism program. That's right, 7 years. I don't think I remember very much before that. However, I do recall how small I was. My hands barely reached the top of the AV cart. My tiny hand clung to the gentle hand of my classroom helper, and I didn't much want to let go. Whitebrook was enormous. The sounds, sights, and smells were a bit too much for me during that first trip. The patient, experienced hands of my teachers gently encouraged me to give Whitebrook a chance, and by the following September, I was ready for the transition. September 2007 finally arrived, and the strong, capable hand of my favorite bus driver delivered me to the front of the bustling, sprawling middle school. She accompanied me to the office and instructed me to wait for my new teacher to elicit me. Talk about sweaty palms. One of the most frightening aspects of changing schools was communication. You see, I talk with my hands. Really, I do. I communicate by typing mostly. I also use sign language to relay my message to other students. When Mrs. K rounded the corner and signed, "Good morning, nice to see you," I relaxed my grip on my backpack long enough to sign, "Hello, my name is Nick." I was terrified that I would never see my former classmates again, but before long, they were coming into the classroom, giving me high fives and pats on the back. I can't tell you how great it was to see them again. Still, I was sad and a bit worried because my Maple School teachers knew how important it was for me to have access to a keyboard to communicate. What would I do without my old trusty AlphaSmart? It was time to ditch the AlphaSmart and to graduate to a computer with text-to-speech. One by one, the gentle, experienced hands of my teachers allayed my fears. Allayed, pardon me. I wouldn't fail the classes, I wouldn't be teased, I wouldn't even be stuffed into a locker. My trembling hands became joyful and helpful as I realized that my new teachers were continuing to guide me along the same path that the Maple School pioneered, the path to knowledge and preparation for life. The third retrospection is when the teachers encouraged independence, while still knowing that we needed protection. It began like any other day during ELA. Suddenly an announcement blared over the intercom. Something was very wrong. We followed our lockdown protocol to the letter. We went under our desks, turned out the lights, locked the doors, and anticipated for the all clear sound. Minutes felt like hours as we maintained our positions, hands sweaty and trembling. After the longest 5 minutes of our lives, we were out of that, we found out that it was a veritable lockdown, and we performed brilliantly. The teachers' hands were protecting and soothing us during the lockdown, and after the crisis passed, they went back to supporting, encouraging, and nudging us into the right direction to success. One of our first out-of-state field trips took us to Howe Caverns. We left the protective sanctum of the school for the expanse of the largest natural cave in the area. The trip annexed into the science lesson, but there was an even larger experience planned. We were given a little more freedom to explore an unfamiliar environment without adults holding our hands. We got onto coach buses, which was exciting. I mean, in elementary school, the only bus ride I took were in yellow buses. As a bonus, they even included a television. They took us from Massachusetts to New York. We took photographs, brought some merchandise, and learned about caverns and rocks. At the time, however, I don't think many of us were aware of the larger lessons taking place. The teachers were introducing us to independent learning. We were taking our education into our own hands. Some of my latest memories surrounded the Washington, D.C. trip. 8 hours of driving took us through 6 states, barely. I was assigned to bus 1 because it was the only one with a lift. Murphy's Law dictates if something can go wrong, it will, at the worst possible moment. First, the bus had trouble with the lift deployment. We ended up having to reach inside, which in hindsight was a pretty dangerous idea. Grab the lift and pull it out. Using a wheelchair could be pretty inconvenient at times. All the buildings we toured had entrance ramps somewhere. My friends were very patient as I toured the nation's capital, ramp by ramp, accessible bathroom by accessible bathroom. While driving back, we found ourselves stuck behind a truck that somehow managed to impersonate a Yule log. We participated in a world-class traffic jam, having to wait in a bus depot to find a different driver and arriving home 2 hours later than expected. Even though life was laughing at us, the teacher's hands reinforced the message that everything was okay. Most recently, my communication abilities have taken another huge leap. My intellectual pursuits began testing the confines of my rudimentary text-to-speech program, and it became time to get my hands dirty in a search for a more appropriate communication system. Our quest yielded at a state-of-the-art speech-generating device that would make Stephen Hawking proud. Sign language continues to be an important part of my self-expression, since my mom is deaf and we sign at home. Sign language and my Dynavox helped me form a bond with my best friend in the whole world. Helps me understand what my teachers are saying. Lets me tell a joke, give a compliment, advocate for myself, even tell my mother that I love her. Lots of middle schoolers would resist speaking with their hands. We're talking about teenagers. Image is everything. Fortunately, that has never been an issue for my peers and myself. My classmates respect my voice, even if it happens to come from a computer and sounds like Danger, Will Robinson from Lost in Space. And if it comes from my hand, it doesn't make a sound at all. To conclude this speech, I'd like to salute the teachers, for they made these 4 years wonderful. I'd like to say that though I may miss them, I'm confident that I'll see them again. When I write my first novel, I'll dedicate it to them. Sorry. And I anticipate that they will be the first in line at my book signing. Who knows? I might even find them teaching my kids again. You betcha. I'd also like to thank my peers for giving me support through my middle school years. Thank you for being patient with me and for being friends. Perhaps Robert Fulghum said it best in his poem, "All I really needed to know I learned in kindergarten. No matter how old you are, when you go out into the world, it is best to hold hands and stick together."